Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Chak Board. I am content incarnate. Yes, I'm doing the thing where I talk at a camera and make absolutely no fucking sense, but we'll see where it goes. Today's topic is not food, it is not video games, but rather movies. Uh, I spend a lot of my day listening to movies on my second monitor. I enjoy having that little part of like background noise to help me along during my day when I concentrate on other things like video editing and whatnot. Even though it can be a bit of a distraction during certain parts of video editing, it's still something that I need because of my ADHD. I tend to split my focus. We're going to get into all different topics on movies just so that it's not just a generalization. I'm going to go into specific parts of it, specific things I enjoy, specific things I really don't enjoy, different companies and whatnot. But yeah, the first topic we're going to talk about is pertaining to some different companies, right? Mainly Marvel for the first part. Now, don't get me wrong, I might be vilified for this by some people. Some people might completely agree with me. I don't like Marvel movies. I know. I know. Very unpopular. Or very popular depending on who you ask, for the people who's like, I didn't like them first kind of deal. But I just never really enjoyed Marvel movies to an extent. There's parts of it I do like watching, but overall, just the amount of Marvel movies, I can't. There's just way too many, man, and they're almost all the same. Unless you look at the actual story behind it. But again, it's the same thing. World in danger. Superhero is either showing up already or is being forced into the role of savior. Some comedic relief, right? And then they save the world, and it's like, oh, there's another one on the horizon, or oh, they lived happily ever after kind of deal. Now, you could say the same for a lot of different movies, but Marvel movies follow like a recipe, right? Because the people behind it knows that it sells. And the movies have good budgets, they have good actors, and don't get me wrong, like it's well made. I just think it's way too fucking oversaturated, man. There's just way too many of them. People want more and more and more, so they release so many different series, and it's just not for me. I will mention though that their TV series, on average, are really good. It's more digestible for me personally. I just think the movies have gotten longer and longer, and it's just not as rewarding for an individual who has to do multiple things during the day, right? To go out and watch these movies, or in my case, stay home and watch these movies because I don't go outside because agoraphobia. But it's just more. How do you put this? It's more convenient just to be able to watch one or two episodes of a given subject and then move on to the next thing, right? And going out to the movies for a lot of people is it's like the thing that they enjoy doing. There's nothing wrong with that. But for me, having to sit watching a Marvel movie for 3 hours when it's taking forever to get to like the conflict part of the movie, the climax. You have so many fights beforehand that it just gets repetitive, right? It's monotonous at that point. And a lot of people do agree with me there, but the vast majority of people like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just personally I feel like it's too much, right? And then obviously the comedic relief it's welcome. I enjoy comedy, man, right? We crack jokes. My life's a joke, same old, same old. But it gets to a point where the jokes are the same, just like the movie formula, right? You're cracking the same types of jokes for the same demographic, and you're not really adding anything innovative, right? Like it's just not changing the formula to a slight enough degree that it still works, but also being unique. And that bothers me a little bit. On the reverse side of the coin, the like DC Comics, right? All their movies are really gritty. They're really like somber and stuff like that. People don't want that. And to be fair, people don't give DC movies. They don't give them enough of a chance, right? there's still the whole like DC Comics versus Marvel thing, just like people are like East versus West Coast or Red versus Blue. Same shit, different day, right? And there are good elements to both companies, right? Both have good characters that can thrive with the right conditions, the right shows or movies, but they always struggle to beat Marvel. And to be fair, Marvel has its, as I said, formula down right. It knows what the people want, and they just keep spewing out the content, right? I'm not gonna lie, I don't really watch much DC movies. I don't enjoy them. But if I compare a lot of the similarities between the two companies, right? When I watch these movies, I look at specific things. I look at like the animation quality, I look at the script writing and stuff like that. DC has good script writing, but they suffer at delivery. A lot of the movies are really good, but it doesn't deliver the type of story that it should. And again, it's the same could be said of Marvel, again with their repetitive writing styles and stuff like that. But for me, it just doesn't do it right. But the animation for both studios it's good, right? The characters, if they're completely CGI, they look real. The effects look real and believable. I just superhero movies don't do it for me anymore. There's just so many of them out there. Excuse me. Which again, it's still good, right? Because there's a lot more in the way of different like characters. There's more diversity behind it, right? And there's more characters that other people can relate to. I just I don't feel excited to watch these kinds of movies anymore, right? I keep going back to older movies that I've been watching, and again, it's just too repetitive for me at this point. Another series that I like, Star Wars, right? I don't watch Star Wars, Star Wars. I don't watch Star Wars for the story anymore. I just can't. I can't be bothered to watch it for the story anymore. I watch their shows for the story because the shows have proper character development, but the movies, it's the same issue, right? They're just mixing up which event happens when during the story, and no matter how many times you change the location of XYZ, it's gonna feel the same. And for some people, that's part of the comfort of watching these movies. They enjoy a similar setting, similar characters, or the same characters getting to the safe place, right? And it doesn't show as much of the struggle of the story. It just shows characters are fine, characters struggle. There is a big reveal, big fight, characters win. I'd say like the breaking of the mold, really, in my opinion, was Rogue One, right? At the end, I think it was Rogue One. They die at the end. Spoiler. If you haven't watched the movie by now, spoiler, you should have fucking watched it. That was the only one that broke the mold for me, because in whichever one do all like the main character just die at the end, right? They just don't die. None of them. One of them, in most of the movies that you see, one or more characters die, but never the complete main character that it was focusing on, right? And so you get into the same thing as Marvel, where it's repetitive. But again, I don't care much for Star Wars for the story. I like the lore in Star Wars. I like the lore. The lore is pretty cool. The Mandalorian was good. The Book of Boba Fett, like these shows show off the lore better than a movie can. And that is what a TV show does, right? It shows the audience that character development can happen rather than just the main character very quickly going through their stuff. But again, I don't watch these shows mostly for their story. I watch it for ship design. I like seeing the spaceships that they come up with and how they animate them and how they interact with the environment around them. I really enjoyed the Book of Boba Fett. I enjoyed the newer ship that he gets. Okay, well that's a spoiler. I enjoy the ship that Boba Fett gets in the later stages of the show. I'm not gonna say which one because that will be a big spoiler, and it just came out recently. I think I don't know, but I enjoy overall throughout all of the movies the different kinds of ships that came out, like the X-wing and the Y-wing and the Rebel bombers. The Rebel bombers were pretty cool. Another aspect of Star Wars that I did enjoy was the Force, right? Because the Force itself is neither good nor bad. The Force just exists. It's the people who use it that determine the characteristics of it, right? Because the Force, no matter what happens, it's going to be there. You can have the people who are trying to use it for good, not to control it, trying to bring balance to everything, trying to use it to heal people or to help communities and whatnot. And then you have the other side who use it for power, for control, for fear, and to fight specifically. And then what you don't really hear in the movies is the concept of like a gray Jedi. They don't care to be good or bad. They exist solely for balance, right? And so the concept of having Jedi and Sith, it's good. It's a good baseline for the type of stories that happen. Um, but again, it's not expressed really well, in my opinion, in the movies. You have the good, you have the bad, but you don't teach the viewers that the Force itself doesn't care, right? Because how could something ethereal or non-sentient care, right? The Force exists to exist. It it's the people who use it that define it for them, right? And so people just get this concept of all Jedi are good and all Sith are bad, but what some of the shows and like let's say the games, right? Fallen Order that we played on the channel, it shows that it's the individuals that create what their perception is of the Force, because you can turn a Jedi evil or you can redeem a Sith, right? You can make a Jedi as perfect as possible, as uncaring and unmaterialistic as possible. But if you torture them enough, if you break their will, if you break their resistance, you can turn them into a Sith. Whereas a Sith can be shown, like in the movies, the error of their ways. They can redeem themselves, right? Especially stuff like Darth Vader, where he was never fully a Sith, but he was a pretty bad guy for a long time. And then towards his death, like he started to realize that, right? And he helped Luke. The concept of good and bad for these movies doesn't really come across properly for my way of looking at it, right? It just doesn't show the personalities influence these things, right? It doesn't show enough of characters having their entire will broken, right? It doesn't show how these people got to where they are when they became, say, a Sith, or figured out that being a Jedi and trying to bring balance and good to the galaxy was how they wanted to do it, right? They don't show the trauma that goes behind it. And they allude to it, yeah, but they don't always show for every character what makes them who they are, you know? And that's always bothered me a little bit. But as I said, like the lore is good. I enjoy the lore for Star Wars, but it's just not shown very, very well in the movies. And I think it's better off shown in like TV shows and whatnot. But again, the movies themselves too can be long, and again they also follow that like routine, that method of getting from place X to place Z, right? And it's the Y in the middle that everybody fusses about, but they don't see that it's following the same exact process. Another movie series that I enjoyed reading first was The Lord of the Rings, right? Now, I put it out there immediately. I don't watch the movies anymore. I don't watch the movies anymore. No matter how good they are, I don't watch them anymore. Why? Ain't nobody got time to watch Frodo and Sam trudge all the way down to Mordor. We don't need a walking simulator. The books are the same way, except books are more easily digested for me because I can put the book down. When you're watching a movie, it's not really great to have to pause the movie, right? It doesn't feel good to pause a movie. You're watching the movie to sit there for a certain amount of time, and you just don't get that feeling with like a book where you could just put it down. That's why I think TV shows are more digestible, right? Because you can watch one episode and then there's a recap at the beginning of the next episode to help jog your memory of what happened. It's good that way. But Lord of the Rings, it's Lord of the Rings has great lore. It's always been great lore. It has good mythology too, with it all encapsulated, all the different characters and races and like kingdoms and stuff like that. Wonderful. I love it. It's great. But the story of Frodo going from the Shire to Mordor, it just takes way, way too long, right? But that is something that a lot of people appreciate, and I can understand that. I myself, I'll maybe rewatch it maybe once every few years. Maybe. I'll watch The Hobbit more often than I will watch The Lord of the Rings. Not because I hate The Lord of the Rings as an entirety, but because it just takes too long. The Hobbit has more character development, albeit the Hobbit movies have their own issues. They have things that were added in that are not in it. I'm looking at you, dwarf and elf romance. But yeah, it's just easier to digest, right? Uh, my favorite part about the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit and the Middle Earth like world, right, is the weapon and armor designs. That was my favorite part out of all of it. The different kind of weapons and the way they looked, and like I believe it's the men of the Southern Lands that had like the attack, like the gigantic elephant things with like extra tusks and whatnot. That shit was cool. I enjoyed that a lot. I still remember playing a freaking like a Minecraft mod and playing as somebody who could control orcs and whatnot. That was great. I wish I had more people to play that with when I did, because that was so much fun to be just living in Mordor and being able to have orc armies fight Gondor armies with my friends and whatnot. Another movie series I enjoy a lot still to this day is the Indiana Jones movies. The sense of adventure, of archaeology and stuff like that. It's always been great. It's pretty dated. As much as we can enjoy the movies and the adventures, they have a lot of the subject matter in it is just too dated for nowadays, for today's generations, right? Some of the jokes don't hit the same. There's a lot of undertones that are not really appreciated by a lot of people. That being said, I still have a lot of nostalgia for it. I still rewatch them every now and then. And as a person who enjoys history a lot, especially like Mayan stuff and Incas and the Aztecs, but I do understand how a lot of these movies didn't age very well. But I still go back to it. The animations that are in it are very minor. Like the graphical touch ups and stuff like that, very minor. Didn't age well. The special effects, eh. But those movies are still fun, right? The action scenes were always on point. There's a lot of fighting. The snake in the plane part, that was great. And going to different parts on the planet to see the different interactions and the different kind of histories, it was a good time, right? But I don't think a lot of those themes would fit nowadays. They don't. People don't want that kind of story anymore, and it wouldn't be worth it to like reboot the series, right? There's been way too many reboots of things. At the end of the day, it's like there's not a lot of diversity, right? And the older movies, as great as they were, a lot of them don't translate very well to the way we think and move anymore, right? But if we're gonna get onto the subject of bad movies, Nicolas Cage movies, National Treasure 1 and 2, Ghost Rider. kick ass. Nicolas Cage movies are a guilty pleasure of mine. Uh, there's a lot of them. You always know what you're gonna get in terms of a Nicolas Cage. You're getting Nicolas Cage and a movie. He's just kind of there. He might be the main character, but he's just kind of there, and it's just him every time. It's a great time for me. I always enjoy having it on the side. But I understand that it can get really stale for people. People really, for some reason, have like a hate for Nicolas Cage that goes deep into their soul. But I've always enjoyed his movies, even if they're really bad movies. I can pick fun at them, you know? I can enjoy watching the terrible effects that are going on, or the terrible script writing, or the horrible romances that are not believable in any shape or form. I just finished rewatching the National Treasure movies. I enjoyed them because they're kind of bad, but also like it gives a little bit of sense of adventure there, alongside having the personality that is Nicolas Cage in it. And they're not for everybody, and that's fine, right? The last batch of companies that we're gonna look at is like Disney and Pixar, right? Now we all know everybody hates Disney. They don't like that they control everything. They don't like that they take down everything. They don't like they have a copyright on Star Wars, on everything, right? But I don't watch Disney movies for the story anymore. I haven't done that for nearly a decade now. I only watch Disney movies to look at the animation. I don't care about the story anymore. I enjoy a lot of them by no longer thinking of the story, but rather just going along for the ride and looking at the different animation styles, the different art styles, the different special effects that go on in the movie, right? Look, one of the biggest issues I have with Disney movies is they like to reuse models for things. Now, again, that's not the worst thing in the world. You can put little Easter eggs in different movies and stuff like that. But a lot of the generic characters that are like side characters or background characters, right? It's the same models recycled, and it feels weird to me that I notice that a lot. If it's not true, I'm seeing shit and I'm crazy, but we already knew I was crazy. I just prefer the older 2D styles. 3D animation is great and all, but I just prefer like the older 2D styles. I prefer like the old Mulan movies with like Mushu and stuff. I preferred Aladdin, Hercules, 101 Dalmatians. Those movies that I grew up with are just the art style I enjoy, right? And some of the like they didn't age very well for some people, but like again, I just prefer the art style themselves. If we're not looking at the stories and objectively looking at the art style, they were more unique to me, right? You can tell which movie is which just by seeing the first few seconds of animation. The newer movies, they keep recycling or doing what's it called, live action versions of it. Not a single live action remake I've seen has been good. They've changed parts of the story that were integral to it that now it just doesn't make sense. Or they've changed a character's personality for no reason just to make them new and updated. But it just doesn't complement the story as much anymore. They remove important characters, or they change the role of said characters to the point where they don't have the same impact anymore, right? But newer animated movies that I did enjoy, like Turning Red, that literally just came out. The animation style in that movie is fucking insane. Like, it's great. The story, cringe. Just cringe. Don't even think about it. You just cringe and cringe and cringe. But it looks good. Onward was a good movie. I really enjoyed the animation styles. Brave, I enjoyed a lot, especially with the bear animations and making it more fluid. Tangled was great, especially the horse portion. That the animating of the horse was just perfect, right? Thank you for listening to my rambling and today's episode of the Chak Board. I don't know what the next episode is going to be about. I have to figure it out, really. I might go back to food because we love food, or I might take suggestions from you guys. I might go into a specific topic and research that topic. Let's say I have a specific story, specific universe for a game or a book or a movie or something. I don't know. My voice is cracking because I'm tired. yeah, thank you so much for watching today's episode. I hope you all have a lovely day. Get some rest, eat your vegetables, and drink your water, all that jazz. And if you enjoyed the content, make sure to leave a like down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. You can get updates on when these videos go live if you ring that bell notification, or if you join the Discord that is going to be linked down below as well. You can get updates when we post new YouTube videos or go live on stream. I might be bringing more content again here soon, trying to diversify everything that we do instead of just let's plays and the occasional like commentary. Again, I'm still trying to figure things out. I'm trying to get a job, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you guys have a great day, and I will catch you again at the next one. Goodbye.